Yeah, but you want to you make that as bright as possible, so you can see my face. I think it was recording all that time, was it? Wow, that's definitely going in the video, babe.
Oh shit, it is recording.
3 times.
Hang on a sec, how do I change?
Hello there, folks, and how is it going? And welcome back to another video. Now, welcome. So today we are doing pretty much kind of what we did last week in just exploring a bit more of this kind of wonderful area of central Portugal that we live in. We have driven our trusty new camper van. Well, camper van, I use the term very lightly. It's not really a camper van. You know, we wanted to put it on the road just to open them up, stretch the legs a little bit. It's been sat for a good while. And you know, you're doing this kind of like trial adventure just to kind of help us, you know, figure out whether there's any knocks or bumps, or if I turn the steering wheel too much, there's a knock or bump. All that kind of fun stuff. And for today's video, we are going to photograph a wonderful, wonderful castle in the town of Leiria. I'm going to pop up the name because I don't remember how to pronounce it. And the aim of the game really is to just essentially just chill out and enjoy a sunset and a gnarly looking castle on a hilltop, because it is really cool looking. And we are going to photograph that for sunset and then stick around for the blue hour and just, like I say, just enjoy the area. And then we are heading to the coast, which will be the next couple of videos. But before we get going, I wanted to show you the inside of the van here. As you've been following along, I'm sure you've been knowing that we got a new van. And so this is absolutely fantastic. Now, let me just turn you around. There's no insulation, there's nothing, but we were like, you know what, because we were going to sleep in the small one, and we thought, let's just put the bed in and we'd be grand. So look at the wall. we took the curtains out of the van and put them up there on the wall, and this is a shower curtain, and then our mosquito net, and we took the bed cushions, and then this is all our stuff. So we are absolutely delighted that we are on the road and putting this van to the test. So we're super duper happy. Who needs vapor barriers when you've got shower curtains? So I'm going to get my gear. Thankfully it's only a stone's throw from where we're parked, where I'm going to go. I'll show you now in a second. But I'm going to get my gear, and then I'm going to head down the road and let's get shooting. So we have made it to this viewpoint. It is absolutely fantastic. It's just in a housing estate. It's absolutely wonderful. But the view to the castle here is really great. Let me turn you around here. Now, one thing that we're going to have to bear in mind is that it's going to be very heavily backlit. So realistically, I think the blue hour shot is going to probably work best for this. But we shall photograph as the sun and the light comes down a little bit more. But a nice little kind of consolation is that obviously this is our first time here, so we don't really know what's going on. And I hope you can hear that music in the background. But look at this fella here. Can you see that off in the distance? That is a nice looking kind of church or chapel up there on the hilltop, and that looks really gorgeous, bathed in this golden light. Now, Orla's sending me text messages. You might be able to hear my phone pinging. She's down in the town, and it turns out there's a goth festival happening down there, and she's sending me pictures of all sorts of awesome kind of like goblets and like skulls and stuff. So I need to go down there, so expect some footage of that later on after we get our photographs done. But the view here is really, really wonderful. Now obviously it's super duper hazy, so our polarizer is definitely going to have to come into play here. The idea is to have the castle main kind of subject, and then there's a beautiful kind of steeple that'll be off to the right, and then there's a wonderful kind of cathedral as well that we can play around with. But look at this though. When we arrived, it was like, look at that lamppost. Who puts a lamppost right there? So we'll see how that affects us. But for now, I'm going to chill. As I say, Orla's sending me messages. I'm so curious to see what other kind of fun stuff she's finding down there. And I am going to set up a little time lapse, which you'll see now in just a moment, but then I'm going to get my tripod out because I want to see about framing up that church that's off in the hills out there, which could look very, very nice. So let's set up our gear and let's get shooting. Fun times.
Hi! Greetings from Ireland.
Ah, that's cool. You're going to be famous now.
So we're talking with Mam here on the phone at the minute now. Well, Orla brought up a wonderful pork sandwich. So yeah, the sun has faded another little bit now, which is really, really wonderful. So I am going to set up a picture of this wonderful church that's on the hill. And if that picture turns out to be any good, I'm going to pop it up on the screen for you right now. Welcome, friends, to the ASMR Photography Studio. And welcome to the first image in this week's video. Now, I really, really like this picture, and I am so delighted that this wonderful church chapel-y thing was on top of this hill, and I am even more delighted that it was so beautifully lit by that setting sun. I just love images like these because of that wonderful kind of directional light. It just illuminates one side of the frame and everything then just gradually falls off into the background, and I really, really love it for that. And it's like, you know, it could probably use a lick of paint, I'll be honest with you, but don't tell the council I said that. But other than that, it's really, really lovely. And you know, one thing that I was toying around with as I was maneuvering myself around, the wind turbines in the back, I feel really add a very nice kind of juxtaposition between the kind of old and the modern. And you know, the one that's very close to the building on the right hand side, I had to maneuver myself a fair bit around. I could only really get this far on the little walkway. Other than that, it was, you know, half obscured and it didn't really look too well. But other than that, really, really happy with how this particular image turned out, and a very good start to this wonderful evening. So folks, I really hope you enjoyed that photograph. Now, it's a beautiful, beautiful scene, and you know, the few compositions that I was playing around with, I'm pretty happy with. Now, while I was doing that, and before Orla came back, she is now back at the helm, folks. So let's all say hello to Orla.
That's why it's wobbling.
That's why it's wobbling again. I did notice a bird in the sky, and there are some like swallows as well, and I tried. Now I'm going to pop up a few pictures if they worked, of course, but needless to say, we have kind of moved on to our main composition. The image that you just would have looked at, I shot with my 100 to 400, but now I've got on my 28 to 75, and because it just works as a nice mid-range shot, I'm going to absolutely put the 100 to 400 on because it's so backlit. I really love the idea of trying to photograph like the battlements, you know, all dark, and then that beautiful kind of sky, and hopefully we get some pastel-y colors in the back. But nonetheless, we are going to just sit and wait. Orla brought up a bafana, which is a very popular kind of snack here. Well, you'd eat it for dinner, would you? No, you wouldn't. You'd eat 4 of them for dinner. I'd eat 4 of them for dinner. And actually, if you look at the Porto video, we had a pork sandwich there too. It was like a big leg of ham that they just kind of hacked bits off, and but this is like the pork is all slow braised and like butter and spices and all sorts of wonderfulness, and then smashed into a bun and or a bread roll at least. So she brought up a couple of those just as like a, you know, like a aperitif to our dinner, and because there's a burger place in town that we eyeballed, so we're going to amble down and get a burger, and of course then I'll show you the Goth festival that's happening down there, and because I want to see those skulls. But I'll stick around for some quality content, folks. So anyways, we're going to wait here and wait for the sun to dip a little bit more. I've taken a few pictures, and we will use those as our test shots. So if the pictures of the birds or any of these little test shots turn out to be any good, then I'm going to pop them up on the screen for you right now, and then we will wait for the sun to dip a little bit more, and then hopefully then we can see some lights turning on and all shall be well. So let's have a look. Now here is that one bird that I mentioned. This is the only picture that really turned out anyway kind of good, and even at that it's still not very sharp. I just wanted to include it in just because, you know, seeing kind of birds of prey hover over cities is always a very unique kind of thing. Usually you get to see them over the countryside and stuff like that, which is wonderful, but when you see them over cities, it's very kind of like, hey, I'm moving into your town, Mr. Bird. And so this was probably about as good as I could get it. The camera's autofocus, it's just really not the best, unfortunately, particularly in lower light. I think I've mentioned that before, but sure, look, such is the way of things. But either way, I am super happy that this image just exists in the first place. Absolutely no context for the bird, but sure, what can you do? The next image now I really like, and it's exactly the kind of frame I wanted to get. Now, this was taken a bit later in the evening, so it's a bit kind of out of joint with the timeline of the video. I just thought it would sit a little better here, but I really love the silhouette of these battlements and that beautiful pastel-y color in the sky, and it's exactly the kind of frame that I had mentioned earlier that I wanted to capture. So really happy that I was able to do that. And just, I love castles. I don't know what else to tell you. They're amazing, and getting to see them like this in this kind of light really is absolutely wonderful. So fun times ahead. Now, it's always very important that if you do shoot into the sun, I mean, I'm looking at the sun through the viewfinder and it's like burning my retinas. If you do shoot into the sun like this, one, bracket, it's just the dynamic range is colossal. And then two, I've actually set this up to bracket 5 individual exposures. Now that kind of longer one at the end, the 5th one, I probably won't use at all because it looks just completely washed out. But I like the idea of photographing, actually, Orla, if you come over here, I love the idea of getting the kind of silhouette of the castle on the mound and then the sun here off to the left as well. So I really want to try and, you know, capture what I'm looking at with my face. And we'll see. Let me brighten it up so you can see the castle on the mound. So there's the castle, and then if I change the exposure down, you can then see the sun, the ball. So I really want to try and kind of create that. Now, obviously, as you saw me just doing there, I had to kind of change the shutter speed quite a lot in order to capture that kind of grandeur, we'll say. So 5 exposures as a little interlude before our blue hour shots. If this image turns out to be any good, I'm going to pop it up on the screen for you right now. And I will mask out that the lamppost, so don't judge me. So here is the result of that 5 bracketed exposure. Now, as predicted, the last frame in the set was just pretty much white because it was like about a 1 second exposure. But I am really happy with how this particular frame turned out. And it's a wonderful kind of example of, you know, pre-visualization. You kind of go out with an intention to photograph something, and then you're able to kind of execute that and bring it all together, you know, in the computer after the fact. So I'm super happy with that, and I love the fact that the ball in the sun is kind of like online with the castle and the mountain and stuff, and of course then that beautiful city below is still nicely lit too. So really happy with how this particular frame turned out. And then as an off the cuff kind of image, I actually managed to capture this frame, which I really like. I was like, you know what, let's just, if we're looking at the sun, let's just look at the sun. So I went all the way into 400, which at this stage now, you know, on the smaller sensor is like, it's probably around 550 mils as equivalent. And really lovely. I'm so delighted that it lined up with this pylon. It's just a random pylon. And yeah, I'm really happy that I captured it, and I really love it. I love these kinds of images. It's a bit more kind of obscure and a bit more kind of, you know, you got to think about it because the sun does move quite fast, let's be honest. And but really happy with how this particular one turned out. So super duper delighted I decided to take a chance and photograph this frame as well. So folks, we have entered this mystical time now, where we look to try find that balance, that dance, if you will, between the ambient and artificial. But my camera here is doing a time lapse, and you would have just seen a lovely time lapse, and I reviewed it on the back of the camera and then realized the sun was completely behind the lamppost for the entire time lapse. So yay framing. But look over here, the church that's on top of the hill that we captured earlier is really, really lovely lit, and this bloody thing needs another 8 minutes to finish its time lapse. So if the the light hasn't faded too much in the sky, I'm going to quickly throw back on the 100 to 400 and try get a nice kind of blue hour shot of that, because it looks absolutely fantastic at the moment. But right now the lights are coming on really, really nicely here for us. So fingers and toes crossed the actual castle gets lit up. Yeah, because that would suck if it didn't. So anyways, I've got another 150 pictures to take on this time lapse. So if the picture over here of this blue hour church that's on top of the mountain turns out to be any good after you've just watched this time lapse, and then I won't bore you with any more rambling, and if the main kind of blue hour image of the city and the castle turn out to be any good, I'll put them all together, classically ASMR photography lab for you, and let's keep our fingers and toes crossed. So we get into the meat and bones of things now, folks. I am delighted with how this particular image turned out. I really love it. That balance of artificial and ambient light is just so on point for me in this frame. I really, really love it. I'm just super thrilled with it. And for me, I think as beautiful as the city is with the castle on top that we'll look at in just a second, I kind of just prefer this. It's just such a simpler frame, and it's just such a simpler subject, and the beautiful silhouetted trees on the bottom leading us to the gorgeous church, and then of course out onto beyond that lovely, lovely blue. So then when we look at the next frame, the kind of main frame, the unfortunate big glaring issue is that the castle lights, they were like, wow, I couldn't believe it. So they never turned on. So what a shame. What a shame. Now, I really love the gradient in the sky behind the castle and the city. For me, though, with no lights on the castle, it unfortunately really kills the frame. Orla would disagree. She really likes it because of the silhouette. But, I suppose with the intention or the thought behind what a blue hour image can be, as we just saw, if the castle lights were on, or even the lights were on in the kind of grounds around the castle, it would have just kind of added a lot more depth to the frame, and for me it's just lost without it. I actually processed this image twice, because the first time I was like, what are you doing? Will you take that saturation way down? The thing looked like it was about to take off. It was so colourful and ridiculous. But again, like I say, for me the only really saving grace here is that blue into beautiful purple gradient in the back. But obviously the city is still beautiful, so what can you do? These are the ways of things. You go out with your camera and you don't get exactly what you're after, but sure, look, we were there taking photos, and that's what matters. Overall, really, really happy with how these pictures turned out, and yeah, fun times indeed were had, my friends. So folks, I hope you enjoyed those pictures, but unfortunately, as you can see behind me, the lights never came on in the castle. I mean, who doesn't turn the castle lights on? Somebody needs to be fired for that one. But nonetheless, what a wonderful, wonderful experience it was coming here. And somebody, when I was posting the little stories about, packing up the van and hitting the road, somebody commented, my good friend Brian, hello Brian, and like, it was such a wonderful little poignant thing. He said that, what was it he said? I'm going to have to put it up on the screen because I don't remember offhand. All I see is possibilities, something along those lines. And it's so true, because even though the van isn't insulated or finished or any of that fun stuff, we decided just to hell with it. Let's just put some stuff in the back and go have a little adventure and explore more of this wonderful, wonderful country we find ourselves in. And Leiria, as it's correctly pronounced, is one wonderful city indeed. So I hope you enjoyed the images, and the question is do we wait? Do we wait? If we will wait maybe another 10 minutes, and I would have put it in there. You would have seen it if it had worked. Anyways, we're going to amble around town, and I might bring the little camera with me so we can look at some Gothic stuff, which I will put before all of this mad ramble, but nonetheless. Today's video, folks, is sponsored by Orla and I. If you would like any information about any of the services I provide or the workshops that I run, you are most welcome to find all that wonderful information in the description box below. But for now, I will see you all on the next one, folks. Take it easy, everybody. Cheers.